Yo, listen up. If you live in Florida, specifically near Fort Lauderdale, or even Miami, come to my show tomorrow night at the Hollywood Improv, 8 p.m., Thursday night, the last show of the tour. I've been to 45 cities, and this will be my last. Come celebrate with me until I kick off a new tour next year. Can't wait for the show. Tickets are going well. Hopefully it'll be sold out by the time you see this, and you can't even get tickets. Wouldn't that be a nice problem to have? Also, again, I am launching a whole new tour next year, most likely in the spring, around March and April. Make sure to get your cities that you want me to hit in the submission form. Didn't know where I was going with that sentence, but I found it because I'm a professional, okay? Anyways, get your cities in. Can't wait to see you guys out there. Let's start the show. What's good? Thanks for being here with me. Appreciate ya. If you can subscribe to my YouTube, I'd appreciate you even more. Hope you're doing well, man. Middle of the week. Hump day, I think. That's what they call this day. I've never liked the word hump day. Feels weird to me. I don't like saying it. It's some water cooler shit. Nah, man, it's just Wednesday. For me, every day is the same. It's just Wednesday. I'm recording this on a Sunday. Apologies for the microphone issues last week. Try to use the little Zoom recorder thing that I had, and the problem was that I didn't know how it was going to sound until after, and it sounded like dog shit. Like every P that I hit was like pa ga ga ga, pow pa 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 pa. It sounded like a drive-by shooting during my podcast. It was bad, so I had to use the audio from the camera, which is worst case scenario. So if you were a little bit annoyed with it last week, hey, I was 10 times more annoyed than you. I was upset. I have a really high standard for technology, man. If I put some stuff out, people really be putting out some half-assed shit, with content, things like that, man. Everything I put out, I put a lot of work into, put a lot of care into it. Because if you're going to spend time with me, man, I want it to look good and sound good. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of looking good and sounding good, got dripped up in this new hoodie. Shout out to Kaylee for getting me this. She crushed it this Christmas. We opened our Christmas gifts a little early because we're both going to be out of town. I'm going to be in Florida. Funny enough, she's going to be in Florida too, visiting her family, different part of the state. That's a big-ass state. So we wanted to do Christmas a little early. Couldn't. We're going to meet in at my folks' place in the Bay Area. But again, I couldn't. I didn't want to travel with a bunch of gifts. And I lit it up for her too. I crushed it in gifts for her, and I don't want to carry those around with me the whole time. No way. So we had a cute little late night Christmas last night, and shout out to the new hoodie, man. I love this shit. And man, she she left this morning, and she had a 7 a.m. flight, and out of Burbank, which we live very close to, and we had to wake up at 5 a.m. Right? Woke up at 7, and usually I'm captain of the alarm. Usually I don't trust that people are going to wake up on time, and I know that I will. And so I usually set the alarm. And this is the one time that I was like, you know what? You got it. You got the alarm. I'm going to be chilling in bed until the last second we have to leave. So you handle it, right? I hear her early in the morning, baby, hey. And I'm like, Ma. She's like, it's 7 a.m. I missed my flight. Huh. I mean, is there any more anxiety inducing that when you look at your phone and it's the time that the plane is taking off? That's like the worst possible, because you got to deal with some bullshit to figure that out. That's a problem where you can't just be like, I'm going to go back to bed, figure it out later. That's an ASAP stress anxiety situation. God damn, that sucked. Tell you what, man, shout out to her. She handled it really well, actually. And she got on a flight that left at 11, and we just went back to sleep. Spent $300, but that's what happens when you make a horrible mistake. You gotta throw some money at it so it goes away. So I'm a little tired, is what I'm trying to say. A little tired today. Not a guy who wakes up early, and but I'm here for you guys. Knocking this out. I leave for Florida tomorrow, doing those shows in Naples before I do the one I promoted at the beginning, the Fort Lauderdale one, and I'm excited, man. Excited to get back on the road. Gonna kind of do a little week recap of my week. Some interesting things happened, some highs and lows, and let's start with Monday. like I said on the last pod, I came back from Minneapolis doing a little family time. We love it. Came back and, again, woke up. The theme of this episode is going to be waking up early, man. Woke up at, 7 a.m. Minneapolis time to catch a flight, and that was 5 a.m. West Coast time. So, by the time I get back home, I'm operating as a guy who woke up at 5 a.m. And that's a hard place to be, especially because I had to do I did like a bar show that night. And the reason it was a bar show that I've never done before, which is always a risk. I'm sure I've talked about it on the show before about just you never know what you're going to get with these shows sometimes. If it's shows you've never done before, you kind of just cross your fingers and hope it's a fun one. It was one of those things. And I asked to do the show. Let me explain. The way it works in comedy is when you're coming up, you kind of have to hit people up to get on shows. The coolest thing to do is you sit back and you let your talent speak for yourself, and then you let people hit you up. That's the best. But especially in LA, there's a very small percentage of people who have the luxury of sitting back, waiting for opportunities to come to them. Luckily enough, I'm in a place where I can put in my availability at a few comedy clubs, and there's a good chance I'm going to get spots at those clubs. But they're few and far between. The clubs I do are amazing. They are Comedy Magic Club, Flappers in Burbank, and those are my main two favorite clubs that I do a lot, and great relationships with the bookers, and it's awesome, man. But I don't do the big clubs like the Comedy Store, Laugh Factory, the Hollywood Improv. I've done the Hollywood Improv before, but I'm not a regular there. I'm not past. That's what it's called. And the Comedy Store doesn't even know I exist for now. Moral of what I'm trying to say is that I have to essentially finesse my way into different types of stage time. And I've had plenty of times where people hit me up, ask me to do their show, which I'm excited about. But again, I have to do some outreach. And I came back from a trip after, not getting on stage I wasn't on stage Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I got back Monday, and then I didn't have a show on the books until Friday. Dude, that's way too long. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I don't ever want to take more than 3 days off unless it's a specific vacation. So I kind of panicked a little bit, and I found out about a random bar show on a Monday, and I hit up the guy and I got on the show, which I was like, great, perfect. Put in my avails for Flappers, and then ended up getting a show on Tuesday. So I was like, cool, the week's filling up a little bit. Now I'm feeling better about it. Did the show, and it was one of those shows where this happens a lot, where you every show, it's not just this show, but you always go up in front of other comedians, right? Other comedians on the show will probably be in the back of the room watching, or in the green room, they can hear you. There's always a little bit of kind of thoughts in the back of your head of, I want to make sure the comics think I'm funny. I've always thought that the respect of my peers is more important to me than almost anything. All I've wanted, besides, obviously being able to sell tickets and headline, I think that's my number one goal. And the number two goal is being on stage, and then other comics being like, yo, you got to watch this guy. He's a monster. That's what I want. And so, when comics are in the room, you feel a little pressure. And this was one of those shows where I had a few comics that I know that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm on the road a lot. People know that I'm on the road. I'm at a point where when people see me, most of the time they're like, hey, you're killing it, which feels really nice. I got to be honest. That's how people are, because you're always thinking about how people view you. And the fact that I'm getting to a point now when people see me for the first time in a couple months, they say, wow, what's up? Looks like you've been killing it. And I'm like, oh no, I've been real sad. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm always like, yeah, no, things are great. Thank you so much. But it's so cool that that's how people view me. And so because of that, though, it's kind of like a double-edged sword where it feels good, but then now I have this pressure. It's probably an inherent self-pressure, but when those comics are like, what's up, man? Oh, this is, you've been killing it. They're going to now watch me go up, and I better live up to that expectation. Or a shittier version of that would be a comedian who will go, oh, this is that Will Burkart guy. Oh, yeah, he's headlining. Oh, yeah, he's a guy who sells tickets. Let's see what he's doing. That's what my anxiety kind of tells me is going to happen when they watch me go on stage. So I feel like I have this pressure to crush and do well. And it's tough with these bar shows, man. It was like a weird room, good little stage. People were all there kind of to watch the show. They had high school dance lighting, strobe lights, a little bizarre. But I went up being like, let's bring the heat a little bit, work on a few new things. And I got on stage, and there was a drum set on the stage, and I went up after another comic, Dustin Ibarra, shout out to him, helped me get on the show, and also that motherfucker crushes. He did great. I followed him. There's a drum set on the stage. I picked up the mic stand, dropped the mic stand, fell over, hit a cymbal. Bad start. Didn't play it off super well. And man, I went up and just continued to have just a real mediocre set. I think it was probably because maybe I was just tired. I was operating on that 5 a.m. shit. And I have this weird thing where, this is such an inside baseball type of thing, but I think, again, that's what this whole thing is. There's an audio aspect to shows where I always need to hear myself through the microphone if I'm doing stand-up. Right now, I can hear myself. I know it's recording, fucking hopefully. But on stage, I need to hear my voice for some reason. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes the speakers, the way they're set up, everyone else can hear you, but you can't hear yourself. It sounds like you're talking into a microphone that's not even on. And I've done a few shows like that, and every single time that happens, I never do well. I've done a set where I did like a 30-minute headlining set and did like whatever because I couldn't hear myself. I don't know what it is. I think I just feel disconnected. I feel like I have to talk louder and just a weird vibe. And so that was one of those sets where, started it off on some rookie knocking shit over thing. And then I didn't even really work on, I did one new thing. It didn't really work very well. And then I did other jokes that I already know crush, and I'm just doing them, and they're getting like a C+. There's no worse feeling than when you're doing your best jokes and it gets like a C+ because you're like, dude, I'm doing this for you guys. I'm doing this so you guys know I'm funny. I know these jokes work. I'm trying to gain your trust so I can work on new stuff. So if the good stuff's getting a C+, new stuff's going to get an F+. For whatever reason, the show really got to me. Especially because I asked to do it, and then I go up and I'm just this like looking like I'm a rookie in front of all these other comedians too. I'm in my head about that. They're kind of like, oh, okay. Oh yeah, this guy's selling tickets. Okay, Captain knocking cymbals over. So yeah, really, for whatever reason, man, it really affected me. I drove home, just being like, fuck am I doing? This sucks, man. Parts of this career just suck. Whenever I have a set that really gets to me, and I didn't bomb, I did fine, but for whatever reason, whenever I have a set that I really don't like, I just fantasize about moving to somewhere like San Diego where I can get more stage time in a way of almost I'm not as relevant, so I can kind of just not feel that pressure in LA where people I look up to maybe will be in the room. I can just kind of operate purely out of creativity and trying to get better. But I really think like that. I was like, man, what if, I was really thinking about it on the drive home. I was like, how logistically would it work if I moved to San Diego? That's what kind of set it was. It was a bummer. Trying to, and wanting more stage time too, but it's like, again, not in at the big clubs. This is the type of shows I have to do sometimes, which I'm very grateful for all these opportunities. I always say that, and I believe that, but this one got to me. Tuesday came around, and look, man, things got better. Shout out to therapy. I've been in therapy for a couple years now. I started, I want to say like the year after COVID. I think 21, I think I started. And I got to be honest, man, if you're thinking about doing therapy, do it. It's awesome. Even if you're not like, oh, I need to fix all these things or really change how I am. It's like even just going into it, like I just want a person to talk to and a space where I can be kind of selfish and talk about myself for an hour and have someone who will have their undivided attention for me. Can't recommend it enough. I just had one of those sessions really just kind of snap me out of that funk, really just put a lot of things into perspective, normalized a lot of my experiences, and my therapist was in entertainment for a while, so he actually understands the hustle and the grind, which is awesome. So I bring that up to say, hey, if you're considering doing therapy, do it. It's awesome. And people who are in therapy, you're probably agreeing with me, like, yeah, man, love it. So that helped. And then I also got a couple college show offers for the new year. So that's cool. College shows are a little interesting where you kind of don't know what you're going to get. Oftentimes they're very far difficult to get to, and you don't know what the show's going to be like. Could be super fun, or you could be in a cafeteria with no one listening. You don't know. But I got 2 offers to do colleges, which I'm stoked about. One of them's in very far, and one of them's close. So it kind of levels out. One of them is outside of Boston, and that'll be in February. And then I got one in Utah in January, which I'm stoked on, man. An hour-and-a-half flight to do a college. Ugh, yeah. So some positivity. And again, I'm kind of taking it slow with my own touring the first few months of the year, so it's nice to have some financial additions, right? So yeah, I ended up getting a show at that place, Flappers, which if you live in LA, that club Flappers is really fun, man. It's like one of the most underrated clubs in the city. It's such a great room, and went up, and it was a little light in the audience, but I went up and just had a killer set. Oh, it felt so good. So good, man. I immediately felt so much better than the night before. Because that's how this shit works, man. You are, as a stand-up, you are only as good as your last set. You have a bad set, you got to kind of rock with that feeling for the next 24 hours and then come back and do better the next night. And if you do, you forget about the other one. It's hard, but that's the game. I think the work gets into getting to a mindset where the bad sets don't bother you as much and you can let them go easier. You're not ruminating on the negativity. You're moving on and knowing that it's a part of the process. Easier said than done. I've been doing this thing lately, though, with writing where I've explained my writing process on here before. If you're a little newer to the show and you haven't watched every single one, I very much only write when I'm driving home from shows. I will put my video camera on my phone, on like a phone dock, and basically just be talking things out as I'm burping through the sentence. Just basically talking jokes out, and then I transcribe them to a notes app when I get home. But I've been doing this thing the last few weeks where I've actually sat at a computer and forced myself to write jokes. Just sitting and putting my phone away, not on any other tabs on my computer, just purely writing. And it's been great, man. I'm legitimately coming up with so much more new material because of this process, and I'm super proud of myself for being able to do that. Because I've said this before, where I've never been the guy that can sit at a computer and write jokes, but I've really been forcing myself to do it, and I'm excited, man. I'm having new stuff come out, and I'm trying it on stage, and it's working, and I'm coming back, adding things to it, just setting up this little new routine for myself, which is really working, and I'm stoked about it, man. So the week got better, Monday, Tuesday, now we're at Wednesday, and I knew I'd shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so I comfortably took a date night with my beautiful Kaylee, and we got some sushi, watched some Shark Tank. That's our routine. We've watched more Shark Tank than anyone who's existed, I think. I think we've watched almost every Shark Tank episode. I watch Shark Tank so much that I can predict if a pitch is going to get a deal or not get a deal. I'm on a hot streak right now. I think I've gotten 12 right in a row. And it's like halfway through their pitch, I can tell you. I'm like, nope, they're not getting a deal. Sometimes when they walk up, I'm like, nope. Nope. Paddleboarding app? Come on, man. Stop wasting Cubans' time. Love Shark Tank. We had a great night, man. Sushi's my favorite food to get out. Love sushi. You can get so many different little things. It's the best. Such a fun night. Oh, we also watched the first half of that movie, Leo, that animated movie with Adam Sandler. Bro, it was so funny. Were we stoned? Of course we were, but that's not important right now, okay? Shut up. Man, Adam Sandler's voice in that movie legitimately made us laugh just uncontrollably for the first 10 minutes. Couldn't even tell you what some of the movie was about. We were just laughing at Sandler's voice. Check out Leo, man. It was really funny. I liked it a lot. Look, man, let's get to some juicy, good stories that have to do with the title of this episode. Thursday I didn't have a show. Didn't want to take it off because I knew, I took Wednesday off, so I want to do something Thursday. And I decided to do an open mic. Doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but I haven't done an open mic in, I actually looked, I think it'd been about 6 months. And I used to do them fairly frequently. I would do them maybe a couple times a month. The more it sounds douchey, but the more successful I've gotten, the more I moved away from open mics, because the open mics in LA are just so demoralizing. I can't even explain it. Wherever you live, literally any other town except New York, Chicago, and LA, probably, the open mics have real people that go to them, and you have an audience of like a few people. Dude, a few people is huge. If you have 5 people for an open mic and then comedians, so great. But the LA open mics are literally, you sign up on a list where there's 9 slots and you pay $5 and you do 5 minutes and you sit there for the whole hour, watch everybody, and then leave. So you're literally going up in front of 8 people. 8 comedians, not even people. These aren't even real people. These are comedians. There's a big difference. And so it's a really, really, really hard environment to test material because, dude, if people are trying jokes in front of me, I'm not going to really laugh. I will give it up if I think something's funny that, like, I want them to know, hey, that's a funny joke. I mean, like, I'll do something. I'll be like, ha, 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 something, just to let them know, like, that's funny. Keep working on that. But, dude, it's just a really hard environment. And so I stayed away from them because I was like, I don't think I need to do these anymore. These are doing more harm than good. But I was like, you know what? It's been a while. I have an off night. I had this plan where I'm going to go do an open mic, and then I'm actually going to go to the Hollywood Improv, where I have a buddy who runs a show there. His name is Mark Hayes. He's an Irish guy. He runs shows. He's a really good dude. He's very funny. And he's kind of like a known guy in the LA scene. He runs a lot of shows, and his shows always have some of the best lineups. Since I was going to go to the Improv, I was like, oh, let me just, it's right a couple doors down. Let me just go to this open mic real quick. And the goal of me doing the mic was obviously to work on some jokes, but also just be able to do it and not feel like shit after. That was my goal. Forget getting laughs. I want to just leave there going, okay, that felt productive. I said some things into a microphone, and I did it. And I didn't let them get to me. That was my goal. And sometimes you'll have one where it's the vibe's fun and people are laughing. Sometimes you'll get one like I went to on Thursday, where no one laughed. It was one of the depressing mics. People were just not going to laugh. You're just kind of, you're not even bombing. You're just kind of talking. And so it sucked. But what I'm stoked about is that I left and I didn't feel bad. I still felt like I was productive. I showed up. I did my thing. I feel like I kind of got something out of it. And I think I'm going to be able to go to these every once in a while. I don't want to do them, but if I have to, I know that at least I can. I went to the worst version of what they can be, and I left feeling okay. And that's a big accomplishment for me. And then went to the Improv. And so the show, I think at the Improv, it was I had hit up Mark actually to try to get on the show, and he was saying, oh, it's going to be full because there's just 3 of us doing a long set, doing like 30 minutes each. It's going to be him, it's going to be Trevor Wallace, my boy, and then Ken Flores, who I've never met before, but I know he's really big, and I'm sure he's super funny. And so I showed up with just more so the intention of kind of showing face. I think it's cool if you're hitting someone up to like for an opportunity. I think it's cool to still show up and support the show and just be a person, be like a nice person, which is all I did. I was watching in the back of the room, saying what up to a couple friends. A buddy of mine was hosting the show, and just had like a good vibe, just chilling. Gonna go home in a little while, write some jokes, feeling good, man. Mark gets off stage, and Trevor's about to go on. Say what up to Trevor. Mark comes over, and he points right at me, and he goes, "Hey, you're going up." I'm like, okay. And then he walks away, and I can't find him for like 5 minutes. So I don't know what's happening, but it sounds like I'm going up at the end because Ken canceled. He couldn't make it. So now they're trying to fill time. Your boy's here. Your boy's ready. Just bombed an open mic. Let's rip it. and so immediately I go into like, been doing this a long time, so I can, if you tell me like, hey, you're going to go up and do 10 minutes, as long as I have a few minutes to think about a set, give me a pen, I can write it out a little bit, I'm good to go. Confident. Not worried about it at all. I think it's different if you don't know you're going up and you go immediately on stage. That's a little tough. I can do that, but it's a little tough to think about because you want your set to make sense. You don't want it to just be like you're talking about dating, and then all of a sudden I'm talking about high school, and then all of a sudden I'm talking about traveling, and then all of a sudden I'm talking about sex. It's like, you want there to be some cohesion and a through line through your set, even if it's just 10 minutes. I want it to flow and make sense because, again, what I'm talking about at the beginning is everything I'm putting out there, I put a lot of thought and effort and care into. It matters to me. So the plan was he said, you're going to do 10 minutes after Trevor. And I'm like, bet. And that's not it. He says, unless, this is what I heard. He says, unless Theo shows up. And I'm like, Theo? Who the fuck is Theo? And he said, Theo. And I was like, oh, Theo Vaughn. Shit. So the plan now has become, he hit up Theo Vaughn. If Theo shows up, he's going after Trevor. If Theo doesn't show up, I'm going up instead. So that, again, doesn't change much for me. I guess it's more of like a bummer, kind of like I guess I hope Theo doesn't come so I can get on stage selfishly. It'd be cool to see him. I really enjoy his work, but I want to get on stage. So I kind of go off in the corner, write out my set. I keep running into people I know also. I'm just like, yo, hi, yes, I have to go. And write out my set. And right as I go downstairs to give the bar back their pen, fucking Theo is coming up the stairs as I'm going down the stairs. I was like, hey, man, good to see ya. Fuck. And so now I'm immediately bummed because I'm like, oh, man, I was so close. So close. Still, I'm chilling. Still cool that Mark even was like, you're going up. That's still a victory to me. You know what I'm saying? So I go back in the green room. People are chilling. And, it's Mark, Theo, a couple other comics, me. And so basically Theo was like on the fence about going up. He was like, man, how's the crowd? He's like, no, this crowd sounds like they suck, man. He was like, no, Trevor, he's like, dude, he crushes. This crowd, I ain't going up after him. So he was on the fence, which means then I'm on the fence of going up. So I'm still like, being cool, like on the outside, like, oh yeah, no, I think the crowd's good. Yeah, no, I'm seem cool. On the inside, I'm like, what's happening? and so Theo's like, yeah, I'll go. He's like, I'll go up and do 5 minutes. And he's like, actually, nah, I'm not gonna go up. Nah, you know what? I think I will go up. Like, dude, he's straight up flip flopping, and which makes sense. I'd probably do the same thing at his level. And so I'm just waiting on the stairs, kind of where you enter the stage, just kind of waiting to see what happens. Theo finally decides he's going to go up. And I'm like, damn. Right? I'm like, still was so close. But then Mark says, you can still go up. You're going to go up after Theo. Okay. This changes things. So now, not only am I doing a last minute spot at the Hollywood Improv, packed night, heavy hitter lineup. Now I got to follow Theo Vaughn. People love him. So do I. He murders. But man, I'm stoked. Because I love this shit. I love that type of challenge. I followed Joe Coy at Flappers a couple months ago. Now I get to follow Theo. Let's go. I'm excited. Am I nervous? Not really, honestly. I was pretty confident in myself. And it's a funny thing when people, when you see the reaction and hear the reaction that a crowd gives to someone at his level, people were so excited to see him. I'm talking like it was beautiful. There was guy friends in the crowd with their arms around each other like, oh my God, can you believe he's here? This is so cool. It was beautiful, man. I genuinely made me happy just to see people feel that way. I hope one day I can make people feel like that too. And again, I'm watching his set, and I don't know how long he's going to do. He says he's going to do 5 minutes, but is he really going to do 5 minutes? Who the hell knows? Could do a half hour. And then Mark can go, you're not going up. I have no idea. So I'm just sitting by the stairs, watching, laughing, waiting. Sounds like the Jack Johnson song. I was sitting, laughing, waiting. And the reason I bring up people's reaction to him is because then, it's a little bit of a change when he brings me up. They're like, we have a special guest. It's Theo Vaughn. Everyone's like, rah! They're like, all right, one more special guest, Will Burkart. People are like, Who? That's at least how the situation played out in my head, and I knew I already had an uphill battle. Theo's going to crush. No one's going to know who I am. Let's rock. Theo gets off. He probably does like 10. Shout out to him for just doing 10 minutes. So funny. He always is. We all love Theo. Don't need to sing his praises too much because he's just one of the best. Especially his podcast clips. Those are crazy funny. Anyways, so then my boy Benedict, who's hosting, he brings me on stage. And dude, people kind of like cheered. To a level where I actually mentioned it after to him, and I was like, he was like, dude, people kind of stoked to see you. I was like, yeah, they kind of were. What? I don't know if it's like an imposter syndrome thing, but I was like, why are they stoked to see me? Felt nice. Didn't feel that super hard change where people were like bummed. They just kind of were like, cool, another comedian. Maybe a few people knew who I was. Man, I had a great set. I had a really, really good set. At least to me. I got a couple claps on jokes. That's always the best. Kept the momentum alive. I think I went a little fast. My adrenaline was kicking a little bit. The moment of trying to go up and just ride that wave of momentum, right? And I think I was going a little fast, a little high energy. But there's moments where I slowed down, had some funny crowd interactions, and I felt really good about the set. And to me, that's one of my kind of favorite experiences I've had in comedy, just because of it was last minute, following one of the greats, being able to adapt, and just look, man, I was just proud of myself. And I remember Mark texted me after. I'll put the text up here. He texted me, and it was like, people were complimenting you after, good job filling in. I was upset at like people complimenting me, so. He didn't need to text me that, so that was a really nice thing. After he'd already told me good job, so. What a night, man. That was some Hollywood shit that it's so funny where I started the week being like, man, I want to move from this fucking stupid place. And then I end the week following one of the biggest comedians at one of the biggest clubs and getting some big, big laughs. That's the game, bro. Highs and lows. Highs and lows. Last thing I'll say before I run is, this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but dude, I feel a little socially awkward sometimes. And that may surprise people because I come off very confident, and especially crowd work, I'm very, quick on my feet, and I'm good with people. And even if you've met me before, it's like I don't really seem awkward. I don't think that's a way people would describe me, but it's very internal. Where like I'll leave a social situation, and on the car ride home, I'll be overanalyzing every possible interaction I've had, being like, oh, I talked to this person too much, or oh, why did I say that? Oh, that exit was so weird. Oh, I should have said goodbye. Like just lighting myself up. And because of that, sometimes if I'm in a situation and I say something funny or I handle something well, I get the hell out of there, which is exactly what I did that night. Because, dude, in the green room, people were still chilling. It was like Mark, Theo, Trevor, chilling in the green room. I would have just chilled with them too. But for whatever reason, I like came in the green room. Trevor was like, you crushed. And I made a joke. He laughed, made a couple other people laughed. And then I walked away and just left. Because I had a good set, socially was cool and funny. I was like, I don't want to give myself any more chances to fuck that up. And have some weird interaction or just be weird and quiet in the corner. Stay too long. I hate being a lingerer. Oh, bro, don't catch me lingering. I'm out of there. So I left hilariously quick. I left quicker than some of the audience left. But again, I was still on the way home overanalyzing, being like, damn it, I should have stayed longer. Should have hung out. Hang with the guys, be a part of the scene. Why'd you leave so quick, you stupid idiot? Stupid. But I think I made the right call. Get out of there, bro. Rather be the guy that leaves too quick than the lingerer. Look, man, that's all I got. That's just such an LA week, man. Such an LA comedy week. It's what a ride. Appreciate you guys. I think the next pod I'm going to recap the Florida shows, and I really want to do some sort of like end of tour Q&A. Haven't really decided how I'm going to do that, when I'm going to do that. I think chances are the next episode probably I'll talk about the holidays and Christmas and also the Florida shows, and then maybe after that I'll do a Q&A. So look for that. Thank you so much again for watching and listening to this. I genuinely appreciate it. You know, I know not a lot of people do yet, but it still feels really good that, you know, a couple hundred people listen to this every week. That's so cool, man. And I really feel like I have a new lease on doing this podcast. I feel like I'm enjoying doing this more than I ever have. And so look, man, appreciate y'all. Please, please like it and shoot me a comment. You know, those always really help. And I see all the comments. And please subscribe. You know the vibes, bro. Rate, do all the things. I really appreciate you. And again, hopefully I'll see some of you in Florida. And if not, I'll see you next year, man. Next year? I was so close, man. So close to ending this. See? I'm lingering. I'm out of here, bro. Later.